here has ever had trouble sharing vulnerably? Who here has ever had something about themselves, a quirk, something that made them different, something weird, that they guarded closely for fear of being seen? Who here remembers specifically having done that in high school? That's what I thought. I want to tell you the story of a group of high school students who cracked the code in how to turn this inevitable high school experience of guardedness and fear into one of power and pride. Almost 2 years ago to the day, today, I sat in a circle with about 10 young people from a high school in New York City where I worked. These young people came from all different passions, all different interests, all different backgrounds. We had poets and performers, activists and athletes. But together, they wanted to figure out how can we transform our high school into a place where every young person, every adult, can identify their passion or dream and get in action around them. But there was one big challenge they faced. They said, many people in our school are comfortable being themselves and sharing themselves, but many are not. How do we crack that? So we had a big brainstorm and threw out all kinds of ideas, and ultimately one rose to the surface. Own it. What if we created a campaign that challenged every person in our school, adults and kids alike, to own it? To own what made them weird, what made them different, what set them apart, what their quirks were, and in public no less. A few of us could start, and then eventually we'd have a whole school owning it. That was their vision. 3 months later, they launched the Own It campaign in front of their entire school, 600 students, 50 teachers and staff. And sure enough, they owned it. There were speeches and poetry, videos, and then there was an open mic. And at the end of this session, teachers and students alike were clamoring to get to the microphone, to own it. People jumped up and owned the fact that they sang One Direction in the shower. People jumped up and owned big failures they had had in the past they hadn't shared. People stepped up and owned deeper challenges, depression, hurt they had suffered. And after the whole event, believe it or not, the chancellor of New York City Public Schools at the time, Dennis Walcott, took the stage. And he, inspired by these young people, shared failures of his own, and then owned the significant size of his nose. It was absolutely unbelievable and completely transformative. I am a dream director with the Future Project. The Future Project set out a few years ago to figure out, how do we give young people a chance to lead the transformation of their own high schools? How do we create space in high schools where young people and adults alike can come alive, can identify their passions and dreams, can manifest those in the world as a way of making high school the most engaging and inspiring place on earth? Own It is just one example of one of those future projects that our young people launched. Future projects came in all shapes and sizes. I had young people publish books and start jewelry businesses, launch mobile apps, and even just step onto stage for the first time. And of course, these experiences these young people had launching these projects were educational, were personally transformative. But more than anything, it made these young people the game-changing catalysts, the leaders of transformation in their own high school, to create cultures where anyone, adult or student alike, could own it. Now, today in our world, we more than ever need to give our young people a chance to practice, to take shots at what it looks like to put their ideas into action. We, of course, owe it to them to prepare them for the world of today, where we need to be flexible, where we need to be open, where we need to be able to bring ideas to the surface. But I would also argue that we are desperately counting on our young people to bring new ideas to the fore. We're facing increasingly complex challenges that need new solutions. We need our young people to be these catalysts, to be these transformative leaders, to be what we would call dreamers, people that can identify a vision and put that dream into action. Now, luckily for us, young people are way better at this than adults. And I think I know why. There's something that young people have that as we get older, it becomes increasingly hard to hold on to. The beginner's mind. A famous Zen Buddhist quote tells us that in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. And in the expert's mind, there are few. The beginner's mind is naive, even ignorant enough to believe something new is possible, while the expert has already walked that path, already knows how the world works. We live in a world today that is increasingly demanding a beginner's mind. And that's a real challenge, because our school system and the way we work outside of schools is often demanding an expert's mind. It's challenging you to stake an opinion, show that you're right, show that you have the answer. And there's a place for that, and I think that's really important. It's important that we teach our young people the skills they need to succeed in the world, to read and to write, to analyze and to criticize. But when left unchallenged and unbalanced, it becomes really hard to hold on to that beginner's mind that can see new possibilities. And that's what we need today. And that's what we saw with Own It. Every adult-led fix for school culture, for bullying, focused on a deficit model. What do we need to stop? How do we stop bullying? How do we stop this behavior? How do we change these kids and all these things they're screwing up? Young people saw it differently. They said, we don't want to stop anything. We want to start something. We want to start a transformation in our school that establishes a new culture, a new way of doing things, that will stop bullying before it even starts, that will create a space for every person to be themselves, to be a passionate, purposeful dreamer. So the question we're left with now is, how do we do this? How do we do this for young people? How do we create these spaces? And I would give you just this one piece, which is like the oxygen mask on the airplane. You have to apply this to yourself before you would apply it to anyone else. You cannot help someone uncover and launch their dream unless you've done it for yourself. So I want to give you 3 questions to consider as you look at your own dream, your own ability, your own beginner's mind. 1, what do you believe is possible? And how can we expand that? We must start with new possibilities. We must be able to see a world in which new possibilities exist. What do you believe? 2, what is your dream? What is the specific possibility that you are uniquely ready to bring to all of us? Dream in detail. 3, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? What is the first bold step you will take to bring that dream into action? And if there's anything I've learned from trying this myself, from working with young people to do this work, it's that we all need dream directors. And we've heard it today already. Play your own music, be the learner, why not me? And we can all stand up here on stage and tell you to do that. But this work is some of the hardest work that we'll ever have to do. And we need support. But when I say we need dream directors, I'm not saying you need a dream director from the Future Project. I'm not saying you sure don't need me. What I'm saying is that we actually have a room here filled with dream directors. When we created this character, this new role for high schools, this person whose job it was to do this work every day in a school, we realized that we actually hadn't created anything. We had named something. We had all had dream directors in our lives who had pushed us to be who we were. We had dream directors throughout history, throughout fiction that we could point to, people that had seen the best in a person, seen the best in a team, and pushed those people into action. Dream directors were out there, but your encounter with one was left to chance. That's what we want to change. Never should your encounter with a dream director be left to chance. So I leave you with this today. I would challenge you to ask yourself those questions. Who are you as a dreamer? What is the dream you are going to get put into action? It's scary. It's hard. Find yourself a dream director. Find someone who can see something in you and push you to be that. But 2, once you've examined those questions, be a dream director yourself. Find someone, find a group, find people in your lives who you will believe in unapologetically, who you will push and support unapologetically, earnestly in the pursuit of their passions and dreams. Ask them these questions. And as I leave you with that challenge, I want to leave you with a story, the words of one of my students. One of my students, she graduated last year, and she wrote me a note, very, very gracious note. She said, "Dear Tim, thank you so much for being my dream director. Thank you for helping me publish a book. Thank you for all the work we got to do. But let me give you a piece of advice." She said, "You know, Tim, you talk a lot about changing the world. You talk a lot about reaching every student, reaching every school, getting to every corner of the earth, and transformation and game-changing, transformational leadership. You talk about going so far. But I want you to remember that if you're just working with 20 of us, that if you're just working with 10 of us, that if you're just working with one of us, that if you can dream direct one person, you have changed the world, and that is more than enough." Thank you.